The stigma surrounding mental health hasn't quite gone away yet. And a recent survey has revealed that a majority of Americans would prefer to speak to robots over their own managers because they can find a judgment free zone. And here to tell us more about what that survey revealed is the Senior Vice President at HCM Oracle, Emily Huh.
Well, Oracle and Workplace Intelligence partnered to survey 12,000 people from around the world, including employees, HR professionals, managers, and C-level executives. And what we found is 70% of the people believe year 2020 has been the most stressful year ever. And the pandemic has negatively impacted the mental health of 78% of the workforce. So now more than ever, this is a conversation that needs to be had, and employees are looking for their employers to step up and offer support around mental health in the workplace.
Wow, that statistic is pretty staggering. It's such a high number. Can you tell me, are mental health problems or issues at work becoming more of a problem than they once were?
Yeah, mental health has always been an issue in the workplace, but before COVID, there's stigma associated with mental health. That is still the case, but because of COVID, and we're all in this together, people are now more open to talking about mental health in the workplace, which is a good thing. And they're openly asking for their organizations to offer support. The interesting thing is, not only are they asking organizations for support, but they're asking their organizations to provide technology as part of the solution. According to our study, 68% of the people would prefer to talk to a robot over their manager about stress and anxiety at work. And 80% of the people are open to having a robot as their therapist or counselor.
That's very interesting. Now, I know I've had managers in the past that I claim to have probably been robots, but this sounds like a more positive type situation. So can you tell me, why are robots seen as a better option than humans?
It's a great question. I think there are several reasons. The first one is, as I mentioned before, there's still stigma associated with talking about mental health in the workplace. And according to our survey, robots offer a judgment-free zone, a unbiased outlet to share their mental health problems. And also robots can offer quick answers to questions about people's mental health. That's why people resort to technology to provide support to address their mental health issues. The other reason is humans sometimes are not skilled or a bit inadequate when it comes to addressing mental health. So technology is a great way to scale best practices or treatment when it comes to answering mental health questions.
You mentioned that employees are really looking for their employers to step up. Would you say that they're doing enough at this point to help address the issues that are surrounding their staff and mental health?
More organizations that we're speaking to are grappling with mental health, and they are paying more attention than ever. There's really no blueprint to addressing mental health. So companies are coming up with their own solutions, which is very good to see. Some companies are extending family leaves for their employees to take care of their COVID patients or take care of their children. Other companies are offering free access to, for example, meditation apps or workout apps. So there are a lot of creative ways companies have put in place, but employees are also asking for their employers to offer technology as part of the solution, whether it's in the form of simply answering simple questions 24/7 or provide things like telehealth or remote therapy.
You can always find this segment and more on our website at firstcoastliving.net.